Okay, inshallah, bismillah. I think first and foremost, I hope everyone is aware of the updated schedule that I have uploaded in Google Classroom, where for today we will focus on the method of sections in solving trusses, and the next class we will go into frame and machine. And next class, which is the first class for next week, will be the reinforcement. So we'll talk about that later. I think you may also notice that for I think for any other topics before this, normally we will have the lecture video and then a separate video for the tutorial, where the tutorial mainly we cover past exam questions. But for this topic, this particular topic, for method of sections, I think we only have one video which cover the concept, as well as I think some examples. And we do not have, or I haven't made any tutorial video yet, because this topic is being included in the syllabus only starting last semester, I believe. Last semester was the first semester where this particular chapter or this particular topic, which is method of sections, introduced into the syllabus. So if you look at any past exam questions, only the past semester final exam you will see question that is related to this topic. If you look at past year and further on, you will not see any question on this topic in the final exam, because it only being included last semester. Yeah, so for this semester I haven't managed to make the video for, because normally what I did for the tutorial video is I collect all the past exam questions related to any particular topic and solve it for the tutorial video, right? So hopefully you can do any exercises if you have the book. Do exercises given in the book. This means other than the examples, right? Or you can use the same question that you have solved or try for method of joins. Now try using method of sections. The method will be different because the way you cut the structure is different, right? In method of joins, you focus on the joint at the pin. So the free body diagram is free body diagram of the pin, which is a free body diagram of point. But for method of sections, you actually cut off the member, and you will have a structure, right? A partial structure. So the free body diagram and how you solve is basically solving rigid bodies, right? Solving rigid bodies, similar to what we have learned in chapter 5. The thing is, where you cut the section, right? Make sure you understand why we cut in a certain way. Normally because the question want the force in that member, right? So you can try, okay, for if you do not have any question to try, you can just try any question that you have solved previously with method of joint. Just use now method of sections and see whether you can get the same answer, because either way the method should give you the same answer, method of joint or method of sections. So just try the same question, this method of sections, and if you get the same answer, that should be okay. Yeah, so that's my suggestion. In case for those who have your textbook, you have a lot of questions you can try, and then you have the final answer at the back, right? But for those who don't have, yeah, my suggestion is as such: try any question that you have solved using method of joints or previous or how to say, tutorial for method of joins. The questions, you can use the same questions to try and solve using method of sections. All right, so that's for today. And just like in the last semester, normally this component will be part of the final exam. Yeah, either, okay, sometimes it is embedded in chapter 7. So what you learn for now, it may be important to understand when you go into chapter 7 basically. Anyway, so that's the, okay, for today's quiz. It will be at 4:30 as usual, and I think of course the question will look similar to your past quiz because it's still trusts. It's just that instead of using method of join, you have to use method of sections. And the length of the question or the time that you need to use for solving the question is normally similar as well to what you have done in the past or the previous quiz for trust and method of joins. Right, so normally it's roughly half an hour or 35 minutes for the quiz. Right, so as usual, inshallah, I'll be here if you need to ask any question or if anything not clear with regard to how to solve any question. And of course, we are also approaching our final exam. This is already week number 12, right? So and then we have week number 13 and 14. Of course, because of how this semester have been structured, we have a buffer of 2 weeks. So we will discuss what to do in that 2 weeks, whether you just want to study on your own, or you need any extra specific revision or anything. So we can discuss on that 2 weeks, because officially the class is over at week number 14, but because of that buffer we can discuss if any of you need any special things. And I think I'm not sure, for the student, have the schedule of the final exam being distributed? Have you get your final exam schedule or not? Anyone know, or not yet?
Not yet, sir.
Not yet, okay. Because I think maybe it's still in the process of being finalized, but because I've seen the final exam timetable
I
based on what.
think
Yes,
that's in iMaklum already.
already.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So have you noticed the when will be for statics is among the early ones, right? I think.
I think 3rd or 4th February, I forgot. It's around that time.
Yep. So if my note is correct, it is 4th of February, which is basically just a bit more than 1 month from now. It's, I think, the second day of the final exam. Yeah. So anyway, so what I'm trying to mention is that we are already in the weeks approaching the final exam. So for any like session like today or any sessions in this week and the coming weeks, you can treat it as well for any revision as well. So any question with regard to any chapters, feel free to ask. Obviously, I do think that most of you will focus on the chapter that we are focusing at the moment, because that's also what you have to cover. But if you have anything from the past, feel free to ask as well. All right, so that's just the notice or something that I want to mention for the beginning of the class. Yep, 4:30 we'll have a quiz. I'll be here on standby, inshallah, for any question. Feel free to ask. Allahu alam.
Sir, nak tanya.
Yes.
Kalau untuk calculation tu, so kalau from calculation kita dapat tahu either dia compress atau tension kan, kan?
Okay.
So macam untuk nak tulis untuk final answer tu kan, kalau most of the time memang kalau dia negatif dia compress kan. So kalau untuk final answer nak tulis ada sign negatif juga ke jadikan dia positif tapi tulis compress.
Okay. Normally the way this is which ni you're talking about method of join ke method of section ke both
Method
way?
of Bayesian dua-dua.
Of course free body diagram dia will be different because in the free body diagram of method of join you actually are drawing the pin, the join. In method of section you're drawing the member itself. So when you draw the pin, so how you draw, meaning the implication of which direction to, it depend on what you are drawing lah. So now what you mentioned about when you get negative, it means compression. That is only if you always draw intention, right? Meaning that meaning you always drawing the force is going out, right? So meaning that you are assuming tension, so when you get positive tension you get negative compression. But if you draw differently, then obviously positive and negative can mean differently lah. So that depends on how you draw. But if you always draw force going out, meaning that you assume tension, so yes, positive become tension, negative become compression. Now because when we indicate tension or compression, it is not related to the positive and negative. The positive and negative relates to the free body diagram, meaning that if you say negative, it implies that the direction is the opposite of what you draw. So you shouldn't change that, because when you change that, then it's no longer it's no longer consistent with the drawing lah. Meaning that if you say for example FAB equal to negative something, meaning that because in the drawing you draw FAB in the one direction and that negative implies it is in the opposite direction. So you just note whether it's tension or compression in bracket to show that you understand what that means lah, that positive or negative. So if you draw going inside the force, then positive will be compression, right? So basically the way we in the calculation, especially at the final line of the calculation, you do not change whether it's positive or negative, because that directly relate to the free body diagram. You just put in bracket on the side what it means. So in trusses members, it's either tension or compression. Or in previously when we calculate support reaction, etc., it means the other direction, right? So sometimes you put in bracket to the right or to the left or upwards or downwards. So that's normally how we note the meaning there. Is that answer your question?
Okay sir. Thank you.
Okay, welcome.
Sir,
Yes.
I would like to ask for the quiz 15. Is it true that the force member in DG equal to 0?
Okay, wait a minute. Quiz. Let me check. Quiz 15. Okay, 15 the past quiz.
Yes.
About zero force member.
Yes.
Which member you mentioned just now?
DG.
DG, yes, that is zero force member.
Oh. Okay, one more question. So, kalau force ED dia tak sama kan dengan force CD?
Force CD
CD
dengan
DE.
DE. Okay, in this case, because when of course, because there's no external force, then the DG is already, if you know, it's zero force member. So it will be the same lah. When you, if you draw free body diagram at point D, you akan dapat dua force bertentangan je. So when you calculate that, it will equate to one another lah, based on calculation.
Oh, okay sir, thank you.
Okay, welcome.